This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, this is Christian Roldan.
And Jordan Morris from the Seattle Sounders Football Club.
And you're listening to
This is Nos Arietes.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
Save by Fry! The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Rui Diaz through the middle to crown it for Seattle! And now they truly can start the celebrations. It's the Sounders MLS Cup.
Nico Ladero leaves absolutely no doubt! The Sounders rule the region!
Seattle Sounders is good.
Seattle Sounders, the greatest MLS team in history.
They've scored! They've scored! Finally!
This feels fucking awesome.
This is a tiny dog.
Is that what you young people call twerking?
And Paul can't say it's cheating.
You want to win? Let's see how the Sunday, bro.
Good for Seattle!
Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes, sponsored by Full Pull Wines and Watson's Counter. I am Jeremiah O'Shan. Joining me today to talk about Leagues Cup, is Matt Montgomery of Wasatch Soccer. How's it going?
It's good. You seem very excited about Leagues Cup.
Oh, I'm so jazzed about Leagues Cup. I bet you are too. Leagues Cup fever.
Should I also talk about how I'm excited about Lionel Messi and how he's going to transform
Right,
the league?
exactly. Aren't you? How excited are you to not play against Lionel Messi?
I am moderately excited.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm not like a big Messi lover. Like, clearly amazing player.
Sure.
Extremely boring personality.
Extremely boring personality. He won't be playing any Western Conference teams, I don't think, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's still, of course, a small chance with
Leagues
US
Cup.
Open Cup.
Oh, US Open Cup too.
Yeah, because RSL and Miami are both in the semifinals. So
Would you guys be hosting if you make it? Would you host Miami?
yeah.
Wow, that would be quite a way to back into a Messi game.
Yeah, that would be the weirdest thing. And I think it's a minor miracle that the deal got done after that, coin flip, because I don't know, the coin might have landed differently otherwise.
Yeah, I can see that magical coin maybe being swayed by the power of Messi. But let's focus on the game at hand here. It's very funny because in my mind, after the Sounders played RSL the last time, I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, we're done with RSL. They are looking like cold-blooded killers now. We don't have to play them anymore. And then all along, I just had been ignoring the fact that we still have to play you on the road, no less, in Leagues Cup. RSL looks like fantastic right now. Like they're maybe like the everyone's favorite team, it seems. Every neutral.
Yeah. And famously, I've never said anything negative about
you've been a big
big
supporter all along.
Like it's all coming up Millhouse. I honestly have no idea what happened. Pablo Mastroeni still says weird things in press conferences, so I'm glad to know that's
not
a static thing. It's constant. And he hasn't said anything really weird about tactics lately. But clearly the team is looking extremely good.
Yeah, what's they're like they're like the hottest team in MLS right now.
Yeah, it's wild. We were one of the worst teams in MLS before that, so
right.
It's exhausting. I love it, but it's exhausting.
It is a little exhausting, and it's funny because there was sort of this. We talked, I think the last time we were on, we talked about how there was supposed to be this influx of investment and all this money was supposed to be coming into RSL and that was going to transform this roster, yada, yada, yada. But where is it? And then now we found it. Now all of a sudden you guys are bringing in players and there seems to be a genuine belief that Chicho Arango is like the missing piece that like at least from the outside, everyone is just gushing about this. What do you make of that?
So Chicho Arango, clearly a good player. I don't think he was the missing piece entirely. I think finishing has been a problem for this team. But I don't know. I'm one of those weirdos that tends to believe the weird data science people who say that finishing is not a thing, right?
Right. That's what we are holding
statistically, it's
tight
not a thing.
to in Seattle right now.
Yeah, and I get that, and I do like I believe that from a statistical perspective. But what I think happened is one, there's an influx of excitement in the team around Chicho Arango, and that you can't account for, right? That's a good thing. But I think the bigger thing for me is that Diego Luna started getting like real consistent minutes, and he's completely transformed this team. When he's on the field, the team is playing like on the ground. They're playing short passes. They're playing quick passes. When he's not playing, they almost revert back to long balls over the top, playing a little more slowly and build up. It's very confusing to me. But Diego Luna has really made a difference here. Why he wasn't getting minutes consistently before, anyone's guess. Pablo Mastroeni recently said that I think it wasn't this most recent match that the team played, but the one before that he made a great sliding tackle in the box to prevent something, probably a certain goal or whatever it was, and that's when he learned what it was to be part of the team. Now he's been part of the team and playing successfully for the last 10 match days or so, and a big part of their rise.
But it was his
it was the one tackle,
goal line tackle. Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
good tackle, maybe a risky tackle, maybe unnecessary,
But
yeah.
Pablo Mastroeni was jumping for joy.
Okay.
So what? But I think the knock against Luna, I suppose, has always been he had a little of that Dempsey problem where it's like, well, what position does he play?
Sure.
And it's like, and what position? I mean, how is he being used?
So he's being used in like a left wing type role, but he's given some license to roam. He's not popping up like in striker positions for the most part. He is staying in the midfield, but he's playing pretty fluid, which isn't totally different from how, say, Jefferson Savarino is used at the team. So it's not like a tactically novel thing, but he's being given license to do what he wants to do. And you see him tuck in centrally a little bit more as a result.
And does that is Luna the real difference here, or is there more going on? I mean, it also seems like Pablo Ruiz has really come into his own. We Damir Kreilach, who was a player who I feel like you had totally written off as Montero-esque the last time we talked, and he is like not that at all. I mean, he seems to have really found a second life.
So I've been quietly surfacing a hypothesis that Damir Kreilach is one of the few players on this team who can make a difference in the way they play. Not because he's like an extremely good player at this point. I think injuries have taken a pretty big toll. And I don't think we're going to see the physical feats that maybe we saw in the past from him. And I think he's benefiting from the team playing on the ground more, actually, because he's not constantly challenging for headers in the air, and he'll win a lot of them. But given his issue was nerves in his back, at what cost, right?
Right.
But I think Kreilach is one of the smartest players on the team from a tactical perspective, who can lead on the field. And sometimes that means we're playing with a passenger physically, but we're given a boost mentally and tactically. And it's kind of a weird balance for me. Aside from that, there are not that many changes to the team. No major injuries, nobody else really stepping up. It's just the team's generally doing better. Of course, the signing of Arango, we signed Nelson Palacio from Colombia. So things are looking looking good in that regard. But it feels like the changes happened before the open of the window. And I've got to say, this is a tangent. I famously have never gone on tangents.
Yeah, that's what you're absolutely known for, is not going on, is staying on task.
Yeah. But the transfer window opening and then Leagues Cup starting, I don't know. I want to see these players in MLS a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I do feel like the timing of Leagues Cup is suboptimal. All along, I've been sort of suggesting that it would have been ideal, I think, to run Leagues Cup concurrent with Gold Cup. While I realize that would have taken some of the shine, I suppose, off of Leagues Cup, in that you would not have all your best players, but it would time everything better. Like, you would be coming out of the Leagues Cup, and then you would really have a proper second half of the season. And I don't know, maybe the timing doesn't quite work as well with Liga MX, but let's get into this Leagues Cup whole thing. If I'm a Liga MX fan, I am like pulling my hair out at leagues. Like, as much as it's annoying for MLS to take a break 2/3 of the way through the season, you have played 2/3 of the season and you have a solid third of the season left to go. It's not that weird. Liga MX just started. They're 3 weeks into their season, and they're going to take 5 weeks off to leave the country, spend anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks in a foreign country playing for a trophy that, like, I suppose I guess there's a pretty big prize pool in this thing, and I think the winner gets something like $2 million. So I don't know, maybe you can justify it that way. But man, if I'm a Liga MX fan, what are we doing here? Like, you're just taking the team away from us right after the season started?
Yeah, it feels like a big marketing effort, right?
Yeah.
It's a preseason tour, but it's mid-season.
Right, exactly.
It's mid-season friendlies, but with a little extra visible money for the players, right?
Right. Yeah, no, it just feels very off to me from a competitive standpoint. Not to speak of, when you have a tournament that's literally the entire league, so there's no qualification, there's none of this other stuff. It just feels very exhibition-y, and I don't know. I suspect you and I feel similar about this, but it is hard for me to imagine a world where I get really excited about playing in league. Like, I could see getting excited about winning Leagues Cup, because winning trophies is winning trophies, and I would imagine at this point almost any team that plays for a trophy is gonna get a good crowd just because there's a trophy on the line. That's sort of like where we are as a league. But I do wonder how many of these games, especially once we get out of the sort of mandatory season ticket part of the of the tournament, like how well attended these games are going to be. As you may remember, when Leagues Cup has happened before, even in the years where there was qualification, attendance was really bad for the most part.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I think RSL's only experience in Leagues Cup was the year that it was basically an invitational, right?
Yeah. Well, so we have two experiences in Leagues Cup. First was in 2019.
Okay.
Actually, that was the Cat game.
Right. That's what I thought.
You remember the Cat game?
Oh, yeah, I do.
It ended with Mike Petke being fired and Deloy Hansen eventually being ousted.
That was actually, I would imagine
that was Leagues Cup.
Right. In some weird way, that was maybe one of the most important games in RSL history in terms of like the way like the cascading events that came from it.
Yeah. Very impactful that way. Very weird, but very impactful.
So it was funny. I asked Albert Rusnak about that game, if he remembered it. And he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why does he have no idea what I'm talking about? This seems like it would be an impactful thing. And I was like, yeah, Petke was the coach. He's like, well, I was around then. I was like, I think it was 2019. He was like, yeah, I was definitely playing for RSL. He's like, but I don't know what you're talking. I don't remember this game at all. And I went back. I guess he was hurt or something, because he didn't play in the game.
Right.
But I did think it was funny that that was the first year of this tournament, I believe.
Yeah.
The next time it was played, I guess, was 2021. And you're saying RSL was in that one too?
There were extra invitational, purely exhibition matches that were like co-branded was that last year?
That was last year. Okay, yeah.
Co-branded as Leagues Cup, even though they were not part of the tournament.
Right. Yes.
Very
Yes.
confusing.
Yeah, I do remember this.
I mean, I would rather Leagues Cup had not existed to this point, and then it came in fully fledged with an idea and not 4 different things.
I agree with you. I, in fact, said this when they first launched it. One of my big critiques of it is like, what is this Frankenstein tournament? They're just inviting a bunch of random teams that they think will draw well, and it was just a very strange setup to begin with. And people were arguing, well, this is not the fully fleshed out version. You got to give it time. And it's like, but why are you launching a half baked idea? It's going to just, all it is, and so they're trying to present this like this is a whole new tournament. And yeah, sure, there is a element to it being new, but it has all this baggage of 3 previous versions, all of which were played under slightly different rules and under slightly different formats, and or at least 3. Maybe there's been 4. I don't actually know how many there have been, but none of them, like the year the Sounders made it to the final was the only year I think that it was a class, like a traditional qualification based on league table, and then they actually played some games, but the Sounders only had to win 2 games to get to the final. And I don't know how much people cared before the final, and I don't honestly know if anyone cared once the game was played. That the final was played in Las Vegas that year, and the Sounders ended up losing that game to Leon, and I know that we sort of talked ourselves into believing that that meeting helped the Sounders in Champions League because they played Leon the next year in Champions League.
Okay,
so like we talked ourselves into believing that. I don't know how true it is.
Sure,
but I don't know. I do find it hard to like really grasp who is Leagues Cup for, if for any reason other than, is it like, I get the monetary argument for it. Like, it gives you inventory in a lot of different ways. There's like both Liga MX and MLS are invested in sort of working together, but like from a competitive standpoint, is there, I don't know, is there even a plausible real argument for this?
I don't have one. Like, I'm biased against it, so I'm not likely to have one. So I guess I have to recognize that in myself. Like, I'm not actively trying to find ways to defend this tournament.
Sure.
But it really does feel, I mean, like it's exactly what you said. It's inventory for sponsorships, for ads, for TV. And honestly, I can't remember where this game is going to be broadcast.
It's only on Apple. It's only on Apple.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's fine. I don't have to figure that out at least.
Right. That said, are you looking at this game as like, what's your sense from RSL? Are they, do you think that they approach this as a serious competitive game, or is this for them like a secondary tournament that they would maybe treat like the Open Cup?
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of chatter around it, but that of course doesn't mean too much, especially with the way, I mean, it's weird to bring up Twitter in this conversation, but famously I don't go on tangents, so it must be important. But with the way Twitter has devolved, and I've taken a firm step back, and I think that's been healthy for me, especially
good for you,
new parenthood and all that, like happy to not be wasting time on Twitter, hold the baby instead. But that said, like RSL fans just are less active on Twitter now as a result. And once TweetDeck goes away, I think I'll probably stop using Twitter altogether. So it's hard for me to judge like what's the pulse right now. Some of the fan groups I'm active in, there's not a lot of excitement. But is that a community thing? Is that reflective of the larger whole? And I think we'll start to find that out, I guess, on Saturday.
Yeah,
other matches like against Monterrey, like we'll have a lot of non-RSL fans very interested in that, and that's great. I hate that we're playing Monterrey again in a vaguely meaningful match, but not truly meaningful.
Is this the first time you've played them since the final?
I don't.
Final.
Ooh, I think there may have been a friendly in there, but I'm struggling to remember. So I'm going to say yes, it's the first time, but know that that's probably inaccurate. But the first time, quote, competitively.
Yeah. Well, the Sounders also have some history with Monterrey, not quite as as poignant of a history. They played them. The Sounders became the second team in MLS history to win a game in Mexico when a very reserve heavy lineup beat Monterrey a few days after Dallas had beaten, I think, Pumas.
Okay, yeah.
And that was, I think, in 2011 as well. And then the Sounders lost the home leg of that group stage to Monterrey, and I think they played them again in another Champions League. I think they were drawn against them in a future Champions League as well, and I think they lost both. I'm pretty sure they lost both those games.
Yeah.
Is Suazo? What was the guy?
Humberto Suazo.
That's what I thought. Humberto Suazo famously came off the bench to score a couple late goals against the Sounders to sort of kibosh another upset bid that they had. But
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for one of those handshake memes.
yeah, exactly. And when you've been tortured by Humberto Suazo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is a bummer. I've tried to crunch the numbers a few different ways, basically using the Champions League or the CONCACAF power rankings that they came up with like a coefficient. And I'll have you know, our group is the strongest group. There's almost no way to slice the data that would suggest otherwise.
That'll be fun, right?
Yeah. So Monterrey is the top team in CONCACAF. And then RSL I think the Sounders are the strongest 2 seed in, like, if you seed them by ranking, and RSL are the strongest 3 seed. And it's like, and you can take the averages, you can take the median, you can take the raw ranking, and no matter what you do, if you're using CONCACAF's rankings, it's going to come out as this group being really quite tough.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like this game that the Sounders and RSL are playing could end up deciding which of the two teams goes through.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And I guess that's fun.
I guess, yeah.
Might it be nice for RSL to have a mid-season break? Maybe. But might it also be nice to do well and have... I mean, we've been really good in the last 10 weeks or so. And the idea that we aren't playing a league game for, 3 more weeks?
Well, and that's what's...
like that.
The other thing I think is funny... Yeah, the other thing I find kind of amusing about the scheduling of this is RSL is ostensibly the top seed because they are hosting both of their games, but they have to play their second game on short rest, which has the added, I guess, benefit of meaning that if they don't advance, I think they're going to end up with almost 4 full weeks, a full month off.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, I don't get the timing of this. If MLS wanted a midseason break, take a midseason break, right?
Right.
But the season is already so stretched out and weird. And with playoffs, teams get weirdly long breaks. I don't know.
I agree with you. There was also this annoyance of the Gold Cup being the teams had to play 6 games essentially during the Gold Cup, which meant that some teams like the Sounders missed some significant players during that stretch. And I don't know if RSL was hurt by that, but it created weird congestion at different parts of the season. I don't know that Leagues Cup is an idea that's going to have a lot of legs, and I just feel like there's a lot of forces that make it a very awkward tournament.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to. It's just awkward at this point, and maybe it'll be fun when it all is said and done.
Right.
I'm not counting on that, of course, but would it be nice if it was fun? Sure. I love good TV.
Yeah.
I guess if we're in the era of peak TV, this is MLS, like adding a spinoff. And I mean, I know it's in the middle of the writer's strike, so maybe that's another thing.
Yeah. This is like Secret Invasion.
Yeah. Yeah. This is
the Secret Invasion of the MLS universe.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I think the other thing that if I were to just kind of spitball the ideas that I had is that if MLS wanted to break into a Apertura and a Clausura, it would make way more sense to throw this in the middle of it.
In the middle, yeah.
And maybe even forego one of the tournament playoffs for like use the season as seeding for this thing, and you can come up with like creative ways to have like this combined.
So it's meaningful, right? And not
Right.
RSL hosts because they have good hosting capabilities for two teams, right?
Right.
Which I'm convinced is what it was.
Well,
And I
do
don't mind that, but I mean,
Right.
as a Sounders fan, like the seating is artificial, right? And that's got to feel a little,
Well, it's certainly it feels like it feels like it would have made a lot more sense to use the regular this like the other thing that's silly is that once you get so the round of 32 is based on whether or not you win your who hosts is based on whether or not you win your group, right? Which makes sense. But then once you get out of the round of 32 from a round of 16 all the way to the final, the hosting rights are determined by the 2022 Supporter Shield standings,
oh yeah, Ugh.
which is
Not
like
great for ourselves, that's for sure.
well, it's not great for the Sounders either. And that's part of one of the it's just another silly thing about this, that like the strengths of the group are not based on current form. They're based on last season's form.
Yeah.
And they're heavily influenced by regionality. And so it's just like you end up with groups that have really wide ranging strengths. And it's like, I don't know, it just feels the whole thing feels arbitrary. And, I suppose, like I said, I reserve judgment. And if the Sounders get to like the quarterfinals, I am reserving my ability to suddenly turn a switch and be like, no, I'm more invested in this thing.
Yeah, you can be invested in things that don't matter. We're all invested in a lot of
exactly.
things that don't really matter, right?
But as a endeavor, I just find the whole thing to be really annoying, frankly, and distracting from what like MLS seems to have gone out of their way this year, especially to like create so many distractions from the regular season.
It's I imagine this is, well, I didn't say this earlier, but can you imagine Lionel Messi coming to MLS if there wasn't a Leagues Cup? I mean, the prestige is certainly what attracted him.
Well, it does feel a little bit convenient that his debut is going to come in Leagues Cup, and like he could end up playing as many, or maybe even depending on how many games he sits out during the regular season. It's not even that far-fetched to think he'll play more games in Leagues Cup than in the regular season, which is just feels very backwards.
That's classic MLS, right?
That
one
is
way or another, we're gonna get there.
Right, exactly. Well, Matt, thanks for hanging out and
thank you,
and staying very focused and on task.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about board games this time, I'll have you know.
No, you didn't yet talk about board games, but you are a new father. Is there a game that you're really looking forward to busting open with your child in the next few years?
No, not yet. It's still so new that the idea of playing games with this,
it's impossible.
Really adorable thing that can't reason or avoid pooping himself.
Right.
I will be excited for that. I'm excited for the concept of it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. There's so many great games that come out every year. I don't want to hold on to one now that I'll eventually get rid of.
Right. That's a fair way of doing it. I think that's smart. And I'll tell you that as a parent of a 10 and 7-year-old, we are only now getting to the point where I can play games with them that I don't want to pull my hair out of. Like, oh, you want to play the game of life again? Oh, great. You want to play Chutes and Ladders? Oh, sweet.
Okay, so there's a great game that just came out from CMYK Games called Lacuna. It's a 2-player game. Very like you just play on a big mat and you kind of divide up areas. Very fun. I think everyone should check it out.
Lacuna,
yeah.
LACUNA.
That's the one.
All right. I'm gonna check that out. And you're saying it sounds like you're maybe suggesting I could let my 2 kids play each other.
I think you could, yeah.
Oh, well, that's perfect. That's what I need. I need more things to like keep them off screens, but not up in my business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm very pro screen right now for myself. So Tears of the Kingdom still has me.
Yeah. I remember not famously, but I do remember at about 3 or 4 years old hearing when my kids were 3 or my oldest was 3 or 4 years old, other parents would talk about screen time and how they were struggling to keep their kids off screens. And I was like, this is not even an issue for us. Our kid doesn't care about screens.
Oh, really?
At 3 or 4, it turned very quickly after that.
Oh, okay.
But like, it is one of those things where it's like, it's not an issue until all of a sudden it's the only issue you care about.
Yeah.
Because you start to become very self-aware of how much time your kid is looking at a screen.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up I don't want to say I grew up in front of a screen, but I certainly had a lot of computer time.
Well, yes,
but, like, I had a word processor and,
Yeah, we're Gen X latchkey kid generation.
I'm a millennial.
Oh, sorry, I take it back. We are both Oregon Trail generation.
That I think is fair to say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's your tangent for you.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you, Matt. Where can people read and follow you?
Yeah, so Wasatch Soccer Sentinel, it's wasatch.soccer, one of the best boutique TLDs out there, .soccer, big fan. And I guess you can find me on Twitter at the Crossbar RSL, but don't expect anything exciting there. And then I've got a newsletter called Don't Eat the Meeples, one of my other favorite TLDs, .email. So you can find boardgames.email, it redirects over to my Substack. So
okay,
there you go.
Good. Well, thank you, Matt, for doing this, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from you plenty in the years and days, maybe not days to come, but soon enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to just talk about random Sounders games, I'd be happy to. I can't promise I'll watch them, but yeah.
No, we might. Maybe that'll be a nice Substack subscriber special. Is that you and I just talk about
board games
and stuff.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Matt. I am Jeremiah Shan, signing off for the whole Nos Audietis team. We will catch you next time.
We love you. Let's win another one.